Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Between Two Consultants. I'm Nicholas Kelly.
And I'm Ethan Silvers.
And today we're going to be talking about technical project management. And to do that, we are joined by Dmitry. Dmitry, could I ask you to do a real quick introduction, please?
Sure. Hey, guys. I have been a director at Logic 2020 for over 10 years, and most of my responsibilities revolve around technical project management. And I have managed a variety of engagements at a variety of clients, anything from startup to large Fortune 500 organizations.
Awesome. Dmitry, thanks for joining the show. And to kick things off, what's the difference between project management and technical project management? And could you give us a little bit of an explanation about what it is?
Sure. So technical project management builds upon the regular project management, as you might guess, but it's about understanding the technical details and being able to translate technical requirements and talk to the developers and talk to the business. So you have to speak the kind of the business in business terms with the business, and you have to speak the technical language with the developers. And if you don't understand what you're managing, you are very likely to fail. So I would say that being technical, understanding the technologies and the tools that the team is using is critical for the overall success of your project.
Awesome. No, sorry to cut you
again.
off.
Dmitry, this is what happens. It's unbelievable. This is what happens when you work with amateurs.
I'm gonna help you out first a little bit, Ethan, because I was going to hand it off to you.
Dmitry, what I'd love to go into next, now that Nick has passed it over to me, is how did you start your career as a technical project manager? Walk us through that.
So I actually initially started as a developer, and my original degree that I went to school for was computer science. So I actually started writing code before I even thought about becoming a project manager. But when I did start, it was much easier for me because I understood the project that I was managing and all the technologies. So it was a little bit probably easier than anybody else. I started my own company back in the early 2000s, and then started managing projects. So it seems like I couldn't write code anymore, so I actually needed more of management skills, which I started coming up to speed on, and that's basically how I started.
Yeah, and how much in your development world? How many viruses did you develop? Was it over 20? What's the most nefarious virus that you created?
I helped the whole Y2K thing.
Got it. In the typical project, Dmitry, when you're not doing development of viruses, and you're actually providing good things to the world, what are some of the typical pitfalls that you see as you're running a project?
A lot of times it's not understanding what's involved, not understanding all of the components, underestimating the tasks, especially on the business side. Things may seem easy and just say, hey, that should take you just a week. And then in the reality, they don't understand everything that needs to go in, right? So, sometimes it requires infrastructure setup, networking, firewall rules, et cetera. So if you don't have an understanding, you're going to underestimate and sometimes even miss some of the tasks that need to happen. And so, at the end, if you do that, you'll fail.
Mm-hmm. You have a PMP, is what you have told me, and we're now sending people to check on that. What value have you gained from having a PMP certificate?
I would say the most value that I gained was while I was studying for it. So it helped me put a formal framework together in my mind on how projects need to be managed. So it became more of a science than an art, because before it's some of it were instincts, some of it were just the lessons learned, and the PMP basically provides this really solid foundation on how projects should be structured and managed. It doesn't prescribe any specific methodology, but it does give you kind of all the main stages of a particular project that you need to watch out for. And things that used to be in the gray area all of a sudden became black and white. So that was that was very helpful to me when I think about the PMP. I mean, actually having a PMP certification is probably not even as helpful as I said looking at the framework, studying the framework, and understanding what it is.
Yeah, there's two things you mentioned there, Dmitry. And firstly, let me start with the PMP one first. Do you recommend for someone who wants to be a project manager or has started to do aspects of that in their day job, do you recommend doing the PMP or any other certification as a matter of priority to help them accelerate down that path?
I think maybe getting certification is not as critical as understanding the project management, how project management works. Getting a PMP will certainly get you there, and that's probably the one framework that I would recommend to start with. There are many others. I mean, there's a certified Scrum Master, there's Scaled Agile Framework certification, and many others. But PMP will give you the foundational knowledge about how project management works, even if you don't get the certification itself, but just studying and looking at the materials, and there's so many resources available online now, would be very helpful.
And Ethan, Dmitry mentioned online, so that he's referring to the internet, just for reference there. I do have a second question. If a company is starting a technical project, what are some of the things that they should be looking out for in order to make sure they're going to be successful with the project management of it?
I would say one of the things that they need to focus on are the business objectives. A lot of times people are trying to fix what they're thinking business problems with the technology, but a lot of times you need to take a step back. You just need to take a step back and look at what you're trying to achieve before you jump into any sort of technical solutions. So that would be the first thing, is looking at the business goals, business objectives. Then you start looking at the technology and evaluating what's the right technology stack, what talent you need to bring in. And that's part of the reason why our clients choose Logic 2020, is we help them make those decisions, and we bring our expertise, and not just on the technical side, but on the business side as well.
I would love, Dmitry, for you to talk about Waterfall versus Agile. I've heard, that going on for a while. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that dilemma is now very old, honestly. Most of the organizations are going the Agile route, but what we're seeing, kind of the new, relatively new thing now, is the Scaled Agile Framework. It's basically how to make Agile work in the enterprise environment. It's been around for some time, but only now we're seeing it really taking off. And it's about cross-communication between amongst different teams and planning farther ahead than just a sprint or two. And I can talk more about it if you're interested.
Well, Scaled Agile Framework, I think maybe why don't they just call it SAFe?
They do.
Oh, how about that?
So when you're talking about, Agile versus Waterfall, to a degree, you're kind of talking about the two extremes, right? One's super fast, very iterative, but maybe lacks the long-term view that Waterfall has in spades. But obviously, you do 6 months of requirements gathering for Waterfall. The business might have changed, things might have moved on. So is SAFe really that sort of that happy medium for most organizations to look at adopting if they haven't already?
It is, and it's not quite, it's not very similar to the Waterfall methodology, actually. So it's taking the Agile to the next level and giving you the advantages of the Waterfall without losing the agility that you get with the Agile framework.
So what are one or two things that when people think of senior technical project managers or that genre of work, and they're wrong?
That you just probably get to tell people what to do, and that's about it, which is very far from the truth. So you have to be actively involved. There's a lot more going on day to day than just telling people what to do.
What do you, Dmitry, anything else you want to talk with us about?
Robots.
Oh, that's right. Dmitry created his own robot. It's really exciting. I've seen it in action. Dmitry, just take 12 seconds to tell us about your robot.
That's something that I guess I used to have as a hobby before I had kids, and robotics was something that I was interested in, and also gave me an opportunity to apply my development skills and not just project management. And kind of bring me back to what I started with. So I started building a new one, but I haven't had time to complete it.
It's really cool.
Awesome.
Dmitry, have you seen The Terminator?
I have.
Yeah, you know where this leads, don't you?
Skynet, yeah.
Yeah, Skynet. So just keep that in mind when you're developing your viruses and your fancy robots. Dmitry, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
My name's Ethan Silvers.
I'm Nicholas Kelly.
Thanks so much for joining us on Between Two Consultants. We look forward to seeing you again.